Jayden Daniels is the next Tom Brady. I know. That seems like a crazy statement. From being undersized, dealing with tragedy, and having his reputation ruined, Jayden continues to defy the odds due to one single reason. But before we talk about that, let's go back to the beginning. Jayden Daniels was born in San Bernardino, California to Javon and Regina Daniels. Now, Jayden didn't have an ordinary childhood, especially when it came to football. His dad, Javon, wasn't just a former college football player, he played cornerback, a position demanding constant mental warfare. As Javon knew well, losing focus as a corner means you let your entire team down. He'd constantly tell young Jayden, saying, quote, "If you're gonna be the leader of a team, there's a certain level of emotional control that needs to be displayed." When Jayden first wanted to play football, he hit a wall. He was tiny. So small and frail, in fact, that he needed a doctor's note just to step on the youth field. Most kids or parents might have steered clear entirely of football, but Javon saw past the frame. He saw a mind that could compensate. Instead of dwelling on his size, the focus shifted entirely to building Jayden's mental framework. Emotions are a weapon, Javon emphasized, but only if you control them. Because of his size, playing his dad's position wasn't an option. Jayden would have to make the switch to the quarterback, a role where his mind had to be his greatest asset. He couldn't rely on overpowering defenders or shrugging off hits. He had to see the field faster, anticipate openings quicker, and process defensive schemes instantly just to compete. He had no choice but to learn how to outthink opponents. When Jayden arrived at Kazan High School, the football program was struggling, having won only 11 games in the previous 3 seasons. They desperately needed a spark. Well, what they got was a quarterback built like a Minecraft skeleton who threw a football like a shot put. Luckily for Kazan, this skeleton had impressive emotional stability and a rapidly developing football IQ. It didn't matter the defensive look in practice. Jayden seemed to know where the ball should go before the play even started. He quickly earned the starting job and lit up the field, throwing for nearly 2,700 yards and 35 touchdowns as a freshman. Colleges acknowledged the talent, the arm, but the questions, they were relentless. He's too small. One hit and he's done. He'll never survive physically. While the recruiting world saw a fragile kid, they were overlooking the muscle between his ears. Faced with the skepticism, Jayden reacted the only way he knew how. He intensified his preparation. While others might focus on the weight room, Jayden lived in the film room, mastering the mental side to make his physical limitations irrelevant. But sometimes life has different plans. At the start of his sophomore year, Jayden would break a finger in his throwing hand. Instead of sitting out, Jayden chose to play through the injury. The pain was constant, a physical reminder of his vulnerability, but the drive to lead, instilled by his father, kept him pushing through the adversity. Showcasing this grit earned the respect of his teammates. Though his stats dipped due to the injury, there was one thing now clear. Jayden had the it factor. In his final 2 seasons at Kazan, Jayden unleashed this factor for the whole state to see. He shattered every record possible, amassing over 9,600 passing yards and a staggering 153 total touchdowns, completing nearly 74% of his passes as a senior. This teenager, weighing less than most kickers, was operating with elite precision, silencing the doubters and proving that his mental framework, forged by his physical limitations, was now his most potent weapon. Suddenly, every college wanted the kid at Kazan. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, all of these big-name schools were ready to roll out the red carpet. Except, Jayden had a different plan. He wanted to play, to showcase what he could do, and only one school was willing to let him play as a freshman, Arizona State University. The program itself was stuck in mediocrity, having won just 25 games over the previous 4 seasons. But Jayden was determined to show the world who he was. He showed up to campus with a confidence and an energy that made the coaching staff fall in love with him. The performance on the field matched his off-field energy. Arizona State started insanely hot at 5-1, with Jayden putting up multiple impressive performances. It didn't matter how small he was on top of the world. However, college football quickly delivered a harsh reality check. ASU suddenly hit a wall, losing 4 consecutive games. Jayden looked mortal, struggling mightily against Utah, completing just 22% of his passes. Internally, the confidence from high school felt distant. Doubt began to creep in. Was the jump from high school to college the pressure to lead too much? He was devastated, saying, quote, "Their defensive line was the best I've seen so far." All of a sudden, Jayden realized that his processing speed could only get him so far. He needed to prepare and study like never before. With the number 6 Oregon Ducks coming to town, Arizona State University's season seemed destined to collapse. But what Oregon was about to learn was a scary truth about Jayden Daniels. He's obsessed with preparation. Before the game, Jayden realized that Oregon plays a lot of man-to-man coverage. He felt like his teammates could win and beat their man with ease. With this knowledge, he put on a masterclass. Jayden threw for a career-high 408 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Ducks, leading Arizona State to a stunning 31-28 upset victory. Oregon came to Arizona State to around, and they found out by getting beat deep constantly. Jayden averaged 12.8 yards per pass completion. The performance shattered Arizona State's freshman passing records and showcased a different side to Jayden. A senior teammate remarked after the Oregon win, saying, quote, "You saw the switch flip. He wasn't just playing, he was thinking the game on a different level out there tonight." Daniels carried the team to 2 more wins, finishing a promising 8-5 season and putting the college football world on notice. He seemed unbreakable. Just as momentum was building, the world turned upside down in 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic didn't just disrupt football, it brought tragedy. While navigating the isolation and uncertainty shared by everyone, Jayden was dealt a devastating blow. Both of his maternal grandparents passed away due to complications from the virus. His support system was fractured at the worst possible time. No family visits and limited interactions. The quarterback whose identity was built on mental clarity and emotional control now faced the one thing he couldn't control: grief. Trying to focus on film felt impossible when his mind constantly drifted to his lost grandparents. The impact was visible on the field during the COVID-shortened season. Coach Herm Edwards noticed the change. The decisive processor now looked hesitant and uncertain. The game seemed to speed up, becoming a blur. His completion percentage plummeted. Interceptions rose and decisive throws turned into mistakes. His performance suffered, a stark reflection of his emotional state. For the first time, Jayden's mental strength had completely collapsed. He leaned on the only thing he knew, preparation, in hopes that everything else would clear up. Spending hours in isolation, glimpses of the old Jayden started to return, but the damage was done. During COVID, colleges weren't allowed to have any recruits visit, and now allegations of Arizona State breaking this rule were spreading like wildfire. Jayden thought to himself that some coach was about to get fired and he was going to move on with his life. Then he got a phone call. His own mother, Regina, was involved in the scandal, reportedly paying players to come visit Arizona State, aimed at helping her son's career during its downfall. All of a sudden, his name was getting dragged through the mud on social media. Fans turned critical, and his carefully built reputation seemed to be crumbling. The situation felt surreal and deeply personal. The foundation of trust and family support was fractured, forcing him to question everything while trying to maintain emotional control like his father preached. The quarterback known for clarity now faced complete mental chaos. Facing a sinking program and a toxic environment, Jayden made the toughest decision of his career. He quit on his team.
Clip this shit out. He out of this. Suck anyways.
Daniels entered the transfer portal, the place where college athletes go to switch schools. Calling his dad for advice, Javon wanted him to go somewhere that would challenge him the most. Luckily, one school offered him a chance to start fresh in college football's most competitive conference, LSU. This wasn't just changing jerseys, it was a required reinvention, demanding he learn a new system and face a level of competition like he's never seen before. The quarterback forged by adversity was now heading towards his greatest challenge yet. Jayden Daniels arrived at LSU carrying the weight of the world and desperately needing a fresh start. But the SEC doesn't allow for rest. The speed, the complexity, the sheer talent on defense was unlike anything he'd faced consistently before. The quarterback whose mental processing was his superpower suddenly looked overwhelmed. Early struggles were glaring. He held the ball for too long and got hit at an alarming rate. critics pounced, labeling him as a one read then run quarterback who couldn't handle SEC defenses. Internally, the confidence built over the years felt shaken. Was the leap too big? Had he made the right choice leaving ASU? The relentless speed of the SEC game felt like a puzzle that he couldn't solve fast enough despite all of his preparation. Still, despite all this, Jayden was just focused on what he could control. Then came a crucial midseason matchup at Florida. In a high-pressure environment, Jayden delivered a masterful performance, accounting for 6 total touchdowns and showcasing the confidence coaches had been seeking. Head coach Brian Kelly noted the change, saying, quote, "It's slowing down for him. It was a breakthrough, a sign that his relentless work was starting to bridge the gap." However, looking back at this season, Jayden himself felt it was heartbreaking seeing how many opportunities they missed. The frustration was immense. He was putting in maximum effort with traditional methods, yet still felt a step behind the game's elite speed. He knew a different approach was desperately needed. Entering his final year of eligibility, Jayden was running out of time to prove that he could consistently process defenses at the level needed for the NFL. Traditional film study wasn't enough. Enter stage left, Jack Marucci, the Performance Innovation Director at LSU. He met with Jayden and introduced him to a potential game changer, Cognilyze, a revolutionary VR training program. Cognilyze is like a flight simulator, but for quarterbacks. It shows hyper-realistic simulations of upcoming opponents' defenses. The best part about it, Jayden was able to use LSU's actual playbook.
It's our playbook, you get to go against the defensive looks, certain coverages and stuff like that, so just to speed up the process.
Not only that, but Cognilyze was able to speed things up to 1.75x. As Cognilyze co-founder Veranda Crockow later explained, saying, quote, "We're not building a video game, we're creating muscle memory, allowing the brain to react faster under pressure." While others got dozens of mental reps a week by watching film, Jayden was getting over 200 additional reps by training his brain to process information at a superhuman pace. The impact was immediate and staggering. After training on the super fast simulation, everything slows down when I step out on game day, Jayden later explained. All of a sudden, Jayden no longer got hit like a Looney Tunes character. The quarterback who bailed early was now calmly navigating the pocket to throw the ball. Everything was going incredibly until once again, Jayden got reminded how small he is. A mid-season concussion would keep him from practice. Turns out, this was the best thing that could happen to him. He was able to use the VR for thousands of extra mental reps, returning sharper than before the injury. The transformation culminated in one of the most dominant seasons in college football history. Over 3,800 yards passing, 40 touchdowns to just 4 interceptions, plus over 1,100 yards rushing with 10 more scores. He was the most efficient quarterback in college football history. The skinny kid whose mind was always his edge had found a way, aided by technology, to make the game move at his speed. This wasn't just talent emerging. This was subscribing to Gridiron. Without a doubt, Jayden took home the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in college football. NFL scouts now had no choice but to take notice, marveling at how he handled LSU's complex offense, acknowledging the massive leap in his processing ability. Jayden Daniels hadn't just reinvented himself, he'd cracked the code. With the NFL draft approaching, Jayden was looking like the top choice to any team who needed a quarterback. But still, despite all of his accomplishments, NFL teams still couldn't look past his size. Standing at 6'4" and weighing only 210 pounds, durability was a concern considering Jayden's injury history. It didn't bother him though. Jayden was only focused on what he could control. He could care less about the media narratives. On draft day, Washington would end up selecting him 2nd overall, and immediately the narrative surrounding Jayden formed. Washington had drafted the next Lamar Jackson, a dynamic athlete set to revolutionize the game with his legs. But that label completely ignored what makes Daniels truly special. While undeniably athletic, his true strength, honed since childhood out of necessity, was his mind, a cerebral assassin disguised as a dual-threat quarterback. When NFL teams resumed practicing, Jayden showed the Commanders why he was worth the high selection. He was showcasing surprising speed, processing NFL defenses, and offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury designed an offense to leverage his quick decision-making. Kingsbury noted early on, saying, quote, His ability to absorb the playbook and process defensive looks pre-snap was unlike any rookie I'd ever seen. We knew we could trust him mentally from day one. The trust in Jayden was shown to the NFL as Washington started the season 5-1, with Daniels becoming a highly efficient quarterback. Not bad for a team who was second worst in the league last year. All of a sudden, everyone fell in love with Washington. The Commanders would put the world on notice when they nearly beat a contender in the Baltimore Ravens. But none of that mattered. Jayden was showing flashes of the same player who dominated the SEC, and Washington had their franchise quarterback. And just as Daniels began finding his rhythm, he took a hit that could have been avoided if he was larger. Jayden got twisted up and his worst fears were confirmed. Multiple ribs were sprained, sidelining him for the rest of the game. The durability concerns that had followed him were suddenly a harsh reality. He could barely breathe without pain, let alone practice or play. Lying sidelines, the physical pain was immense, but the mental frustration was worse. The old doubts about his durability resurfaced, coupled with the fear that this setback could derail everything. Could his mind truly overcome this physical limitation at the NFL level? He was dying to get back on the field and lead just like his father had taught him. Not cleared to return to practice, he had no choice but to return to the tool that had transformed his final year at LSU. Washington invested in the same Cognized VR system, allowing Jayden to continue his mental preparation while his body healed. When Jayden returned to the field the following week, something was different. Teammates and coaches noticed immediately. This wasn't the same promising rookie. When Jayden returned to the field, he seemed calmer and more decisive. The stats backed up the eye test. In his first game back, his completion percentage jumped dramatically, hovering near an astonishing 82%, a massive leap from his pre-injury performance. The media was suddenly scrambling to try to understand how a rookie, especially one coming off an injury, could be processing the game so quickly and making veteran-level reads. The quarterback, initially labeled as just another running quarterback, was destroying NFL defenses with the precision of a seasoned pro. Clutch performance after clutch performance, Jayden looked too calm to the media, when in reality, he was too prepared. Washington would end up becoming the hottest feel-good story of the NFL season after years of being tormented by former owner Osama bin Snyder. They would make it all the way to the NFC Championship game before losing to the Super Bowl champion Eagles. Jayden Daniels' rookie season didn't just showcase promise, it revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of his game. While labeled as a dual threat, the reality is far more potent. He's a throwback quarterback, a cerebral giant operating with mental speed of legends like Brady, Brees, and Rodgers, yet packaged in a modern athletic frame. Just watch him pre-snap, identifying defenses, adjusting protections, and manipulating safeties with his eyes. It looks like some of the greats. When analysts call him poised, they're missing the underlying truth. The game generally is moving slower for him. A direct result of relentless preparation supercharged by thousands of VR reps. That smile before a crucial moment isn't just confidence, it's the look of a quarterback who has seen and solved this exact puzzle hundreds of times before. While his athleticism provides an escape hatch, his primary weapon remains his mind, beating a defense before the chaos even begins. Comparing to the past seasons of current elite quarterbacks, Daniels already displayed a better passer rating when throwing under pressure than Joe Burrow, better accuracy than the MVP in Josh Allen, and more touchdowns than Patrick Mahomes. His average time from snap to throw rivals prime Tom Brady. This isn't just potential, it's a trajectory rarely seen. The Commanders didn't just draft an athlete. They secured a player whose core strength, elite mental processing, is what makes a championship caliber quarterback. The scary truth about Jayden Daniels isn't just that he's good now, is that he's likely just scratching the surface. The VR technology that was so pivotal at LSU is now embedded in his NFL preparation, suggesting his play could even get better. The skinny kid taught by his father to control his emotions and rely on his mind is now doing that precisely on the biggest stage. This combination doesn't just produce highlight reels. History suggests it leads to Super Bowls. So the next time you hear Jayden Daniels called a dual threat, remember what lies beneath. It's not just the legs making plays, it's the mind. honed by adversity and accelerated by technology. And like the gunslingers before him, that's what makes him truly dangerous and potentially generational. Speaking of generational quarterbacks, you might want to learn what factor makes Bryce Young so great.